Healthy Rebel Radio is sponsored by the Healthy Rebel app. 300 plus secretly healthy, delicious, mouth-watering dessert and treat recipes made with all-natural, whole food ingredients. Now available for download on the App Store and Google Play. Find out more details at healthyrebel.com.
Welcome to Healthy Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Dr. David Dowser. I'm here with my Daily Health Healthy Rebel co-founder, Amy Lane. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a few quick health and wellness stories to review today. The first one has to do with cancer. It's a cancer study. It's looking at 12 European countries. And this was really important because what it showed was this year, cancer became the number one killer over cardiovascular disease.
Ugh.
Which is a huge shift. In North America, we're used to hearing about cardiovascular disease being number one, for so many years. Mm-hmm. Forever, it feels like. Now we've got 12 countries in Europe where cancer has gone to the top.
So it's just Europe, not...
Just Europe. Anyways, something's got to be done. Mm-hmm. And it's got to come from all this money that's being put into... Cancer research. Exactly. But, it's like you have always said, we need to start focusing more on prevention. Mm-hmm. And less on the therapeutics. Mm-hmm. Because we know that there are so many strong potential things you can do to prevent.
That a lot of people aren't educated equally about.
It's true. Everyone knows,
the majority of the mainstream options for cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows people have been through it.
Chemo, radiation, yeah.
It's amazing how little weight people put in cancer prevention. They think it's fluff. They think it's, it's not real.
Right. There is good research out there for
it's very
healthy lifestyle, for exercise, for diet. There's so much
stress relief, for environmental toxins, and, there's all kinds of things you can do.
Exactly. And we have all this physiological research showing how, environmental toxins like phthalates can cause cancer. And, mm-hmm. We don't have big-time human trials, but we know that these things are happening. And there's things we can do to prevent.
Well, and like I always say, why not, jump on the train of prevention now instead of, 10, 20 years down the road when they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we did know that. Yeah, mm-hmm. These things did cause cancer, but it's too late for everyone.
Right.
Well, why do we wait for that? Mm-hmm.
It's true. One thing we talked about a couple months ago that I think needs to be re-brought up here is one of the core things, one of the easiest things you can do is maintain a healthy weight.
Yes.
Being overweight puts you at risk for 11 different types of cancers, mm-hmm. and it's not just being at risk. This is actually significantly at risk.
And it's even more dangerous for women, is it not?
It is.
Yeah, because our fat cells hold hormones, correct?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I see it being much more important. Mm-hmm. For men, we know cardiovascular disease and being overweight and having cardiovascular disease, that's something that people can see. It makes sense to the brain.
Yeah.
But there has to be more talk about overweight, being overweight and being obese, having correlations, not just with diabetes and cardiovascular disease, but also with cancer risk.
And this isn't, and we need to also separate and stop being so sensitive to, body shaming. This isn't body shaming. This isn't saying, you need to look sexy in a two-piece. This is saying you need to hold a certain healthy body weight. Like, being overweight isn't healthy.
Yeah,
so it's not objective. It's not one thing. Mm-hmm. Body shaming and in the imagery that is being produced by mass media that is unrealistic and unattainable, blah, 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 is a completely different conversation to being a healthy body weight. Mm-hmm. So everyone needs to just let that go. Yeah. We can't be so sensitive. Being overweight is not healthy. End of story.
Right. I just see it as significant motivation to create systems in your life to make sure that this doesn't happen. And if it has happened already, no big deal. Stress makes it worse, of course. Just begin to create systems to reduce its effects.
Definitely.
this isn't really what I want to talk about today, but I mean, it was first thing that came up this morning, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's got to be mentioned because, cardiovascular disease prevention is extremely important to me as well. But I mean, these two guys, cancer and cardiovascular disease, we've got to keep an eye out for, and the prevention methods are not that big of a deal.
They aren't. It's the resistance to them, honestly, that's a bigger deal. Exactly. Than the actual... If you could just stop being a child having a hissy fit and saying, I don't want to do adult hard things. If we could all just stop it.
Yes.
And just do what it takes to be healthy. It's just so much easier.
Exactly. And I completely understand that people say sometimes, well, it doesn't matter if you're healthy. Healthy people... I know lots of healthy people who had a heart attack or who have had cancer. This is true. But we're talking numbers here. We're talking millions of people. It's
like trying to find an excuse. It's a ridiculous argument.
It really is.
It's
very emotional, though, because you can have people really close to you who are seemingly extremely healthy.
Look, and I mean, it's not that I don't understand this from a level that is deeper than most people have. It's not one remove for me. It was my father. He was a health advocate. And he was struck down by an environmental cancer. So I could... If anybody in this world could sit here and say, drink, eat the pizza, don't work, smoke whatever drugs, like...
Yeah, my father was fit and never drank, and he got cancer, yeah.
That's true. My dad never touched drugs. He never drank. He saved every penny he ever earned. He went to church. He was, he was doing all the health stuff, and he was basically struck down by something that was beyond his control. So, I mean, I could be that person, but... It's just such a silly, silly conversation. Because I know if he was back here today, he would say, be as healthy and as vibrant and suck up as much of this beautiful life experience as humanly possible. Yeah. He would never say, dumb yourself down and be drunk and numb yourself with unhealthy food and weigh yourself down with extra body fat and be lethargic. And he would never say any of that.
No.
He'd say, suck this experience up because it's gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, he was very focused on feeling good, and when he ate well and exercised well, he felt good, and that was important.
For sure. And I mean, it's just a silly, silly conversation to go the other way. And the funniest part is the people that I personally know that say these arguments, and they say things like, well, I'll just drink whenever I want, eat whenever I want, I'm not going to exercise because life is short and I know people that died. They're all miserable.
Yeah.
They may be happy while they're eating the pie, but as soon as they're done, they're sad. They may be happy while they're drunk, but as soon as they're hungover, they're sad.
Right.
And they're consistently unhealthy. So, you're not living. It's just...
It's true. And I think that stepping outside of the emotions of the event are what you have to do to get to really accept this as being truth. Because if you look at what you can say very easily is that most people who are healthy, who eat well and exercise, do not get cancer. They do not get cardiovascular disease. Most people, and the key word here is most. So stepping outside of those one-offs, extremely emotional events that we've all been through.
Or going to the deeper emotion of them. That's what I do. I go deeper with it.
How so?
Well, like I said, I could stay at the surface of it and be like, he didn't do these things, so I'm going to go eat chocolate cake for breakfast. I'm going to get drunk by noon, and I'm going to go run around town naked, or whatever these stupid extremes are that people,
Yeah.
But that doesn't feel good. Those don't lead to good things. Those don't enrich your life.
Right. I get it.
Those aren't
reality. I completely understand. What I really want to talk about today was the conversation we've tried to have a few times, but I feel like we haven't really got to the core of it, is why are people avoiding dairy?
Oh my gosh, are you serious right now?
It's a huge conversation, but I preface it by saying why are people avoiding dairy, but I have a few points that have come up recently in the news and in my research that I really want to share with everyone. They're important because they highlight some of the myths surrounding dairy that we for sure should cover every once in a while.
All right.
Number one is a Swedish study of 100,000 people. They followed their diets over 20 years. It's a correlational study. We're doing a lot of these things because I like correlational studies because they can highlight how lifestyle can affect health outcomes, but they're not definitive. They're not saying a causation. Okay, this is a correlational one. So 100,000 people followed their diet for 20 years. What they saw was there was people who consumed the most dairy had no reduced risk of broken bones. In fact, for women, the women who drank the most milk had the highest risk of having fractures. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the number here. Whoever drank 3 or more glasses a day were twice as likely as those who drank 1 or less to die sooner. So an increased risk of death with more consumption of milk. Now, there's only one caveat in the study, so this is really, really good that they made note of this. In Sweden, milk is fortified with vitamin A. Whether that had any effect or not, hard to say, but they did note that. That's the only thing in the study that maybe said, maybe this isn't true. Otherwise, people who drank the most milk died the soonest. And it's, okay, so skeptics will say, well, this is correlational. What else is going on in their lifestyle? These people who love milk, what else are they doing? And this is true, but I think we have to take a real hard look at this. Mm-hmm. Say something's going on here. A lot of scientists online will say, okay, maybe it's the higher fat contents of certain milk. This wasn't yogurt or cheese, right? This is just drinking milk. Higher fat content associated with inflammation, which can increase cardiovascular risk, which can cause earlier death. Sure. There's many potential reasons for this. Anyhow, I just thought it was interesting to bring up. Mm. The core point here that so many are focused on, and we have been made to fear having a lack of calcium. Mm-hmm. It didn't change. Our bones are gonna just wither away if we don't drink tons and tons of milk. It just doesn't happen. Mm. It's not true. A lot of the fear came about 15 years ago when a very small study, about 50 kids, came out. I think it was in the U.S. and it showed that those who didn't drink milk because of lifestyle reasons had smaller bone structure and less bone density, compared with 200 kids who drank tons of milk. We don't know what else was going on in their diet. Another correlational study, but going the other way. Who knows what was going on? We need huge studies to determine if this is going to change the bone density in kids. But we know the effect in adults, not significant. Mm. And maybe, just maybe, the high fat content or the sugar or the inability to digest milk as we age is having the opposite effect on the calcium. Yeah. Right? It's going against it. Anyways, I just thought it was really interesting. Mm. One more thing about dairy and milk in general. A lot of people associate dairy with acne. I do. I know you've been there and you've recognized that and seen the benefit of pulling people off it as well. Mm-hmm. People have looked into this, which I wasn't sure of. I just accepted it as truth because it's true for me. It's true for me, yeah. So I did some research, of course, looked at a 2005 Harvard study. And they found that those who consumed the higher fat dairy more often suffered from more acne. Hmm. That's not surprising. It's inflammatory. Mm. We know that there's, in North America at least, we've got growth hormone and antibiotic effects on our dairy. Yeah, it's disgusting. And so physiologically, we're not exactly sure why this is happening, but there is a correlation. On the flip side of this, no research has shown that consuming milk increases phlegm production. Yeah, and I don't believe that. Even though most traditional medicines, Chinese medicine, Western herbalism, Western integrative, I believe even Ayurvedic, they have determined that consuming dairy products can increase phlegm production or at least cause a sensation of increased phlegm production. I mean, and the only way to, see about how you actually feel about dairy without just having, blind arguments is to try removing it, for say 5-6 weeks from your diet. Right. And see how you feel. Now here's what I know for sure happened for me. And no, there's no debate here. It's a fact. It's one thing I took out of my diet. Definitely decreased phlegm. Whatever. Definitely. I completely had to change my hormonal
PMS reactions.
If you've got irregular cycles, please listen in.
Yeah, like it changed the game for me. I had acne, not only acne on a regular basis, I had acne on my back, which is hormonal. It completely went away.
And was it cystic or pimples?
All of it. Cystic.
Holy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely went away. Definitely bloating and gas. Just gone. That last 5 pounds that just looked like water on my body that just didn't make sense, gone.
Often associated with bloating.
And one personal thing, and this is super personal for me, that I noticed is I can smell when people eat dairy. I know this sounds weird, but like they have like a sour smell to their breath, and it just grosses me out now. And really? I find a real shift with that. Yeah, it's gross.
Wow.
It gives me I can tell.
Yeah. Interesting. You bring up some good points. One is digestive. I think that the progression of this conversation is, okay, there's acne for sure. Most people can proclaim that it causes increased phlegm. What's going on digestively? We know that as a child, we're supposed to consume our mother's milk. That is natural for our digestive tracts. So we're used to breaking down sort of what would be natural milk for us. As we age, we lose that ability. I was reading this morning about how there's some genetic mutations that Western Europeans or people with Western European descent have that allows them to consume milk longer because they're so used to it now and they've developed this ability. But literally most people, and I'm talking most people, just do not have the enzyme to break down the sugars in milk.
When you even just think about we're the only mammals on Earth that consume another mammal's milk.
It makes no sense.
It just makes no sense, aside from where the milk is coming from, like, and what has happened to those animals. Like,
yeah,
it's just not a healthy place anymore. You know,
it's really not.
Antibiotics, like, it's just not even food, and it's just gross. Like,
and it's funny because a lot of my patients who will travel to Europe can consume the milk there and have no problems digesting.
And I've heard that too.
So I mean, it's
is it the actual milk here, or is it the stuff we've done to the animals?
Exactly. So we don't have the ability to break it down. So what does that what happens in the digestive tract? Is there an inflammatory response that's causing bloating? Is it causing a dysbiosis or an imbalance in the good bacteria? Something's going on, and it's setting off an immune reaction, and maybe that is causing the sensation of increased mucus.
It's just such an easy fix if you just try taking it out, and then you have... It's just so easy.
Right.
But the thing is that it has to be complete, and it has to be for a set amount of time, and I'm talking 5 to 8 weeks. And I'm not talking like, oh, well, I had a little cheese on my nachos on Saturday, but then I went on, I had yogurt, but... No, I'm talking... Clear it out, absolutely commit to having none for 5 to 8 weeks, period, end of story, and see how you feel. Yeah. And then it's just so freeing. Like, I mean, I just would never go back now.
Especially if you're focused on your cycle or PMS-associated acne.
If you have a chronic issue that's just so annoying.
It's got to be 2 cycles at least. It's got to be 8 weeks.
I committed to like 6 months. But I mean, I'm a committer.
You're a committer. That's
I
true.
like feeling good.
Yeah.
And I'm my own biggest health advocate.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever it takes to feel great.
Absolutely.
And in the scale of things, not eating dairy is really, really not a big deal.
It's not, except the ice cream shops around here in the summer. My gosh.
You're the only person that has an issue with that.
I'm definitely not. Based on these lineups that we see, I'm not. I've taken a few weeks off, though, which is pretty good.
I'm telling you, with the new cashew milk ice creams...
Oh, it's delicious.
If
you're looking for a substitute and you haven't tried this new cashew milk ice cream...
But, I mean, and I'm telling you, like, that's a treat.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Ooh. But I have ice cream almost on a daily basis, but it's my recipes.
Right. I mean, those are the ones to go for.
Pure fruit.
Yeah, pure fruit, a little bit of nut butter. It's delicious.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, the best. And an easy way to get calcium is consume nut butter.
Calcium. can be found in vegetables and
green leafies. I mean,
it's
really
like
good
in your every time you have a green smoothie and you're packing in those greens, you're getting calcium. Like, you know, there's a ton of other ways. You know, nuts, seeds. Like, you know, don't be your own health advocate. Don't.
Yeah, and about calcium. I mean, looking at this study, there may be an issue with the reduced risk of bone fracture because maybe the people in the study were not getting vitamin K2 and vitamin D3. In order for calcium to work, you need to have these other two guys. Mm-hmm. It can't just be calcium. I've got calcium fortified milk, or I've got milk with a really high calcium content. That doesn't really matter if you're not having a well-balanced lifestyle, if you're not challenging your bones with exercise, right? If you're not consuming vitamin K2 and getting a little bit of sunshine and getting some D3. So you need these other guys. And what they do is they take the calcium to the bones as opposed to just having minerals deposited in plaque buildup in the arteries. Anyhow, it's really important to just be well-balanced. And I believe a healthy lifestyle, a well-balanced healthy lifestyle does not need to include dairy. It does not need it. No,
but you need to... It's like anything. It's like when you see these negative conversations about, this vegan child that was malnourished, whatever. There's bad ways to do every way of eating. You can be an unhealthy person that doesn't eat dairy. So it's not, you still have to bring up the end. You still have to have a healthy, well-rounded diet. Doing one thing isn't magic.
Right.
But in saying that, eliminating dairy and bringing up the other end with, high vegetables, fruits, whole, healthy carbohydrates, lentils, beans, all that stuff, you balance out your life.
Mm-hmm. You do.
And water. Water.
Water.
But I also found that taking dairy out really helped me eliminate cravings on a certain level as well.
Really?
Yeah, I found that when I ate more dairy, when I'm thinking back, when I was eating dairy, that was more of a time that I once a week would get something that was like, for me, what would be now is considered junk. And I needed it. I craved more sugar, more like refined junk. For sure.
Right. Interesting.
Eliminating it really helped.
Well, I mean, now when I think about dairy, all I think about is this high-fat ice cream with tons of sugar. So, that's all I think about when I even consider dairy, because I don't drink milk.
For me, it was quote-unquote healthy dairy. That's all I ate. Yeah, I had the low cottage cheese and the non-fat blah, 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 Greek yogurt. Because I would have the protein pancake every day. And,
right, yeah.
And then have the Greek yogurt in my smoothie to make sure I was getting my calcium and protein. But, anyway.
Interesting. And we started today's conversation talking about cancer taking over as the number one killer in 12 countries in Europe. I want to end the show by just highlighting something from the year 1990. We're talking 26 years ago.
What?
It was a huge study that showed a correlation between dairy consumption and the risk of many different cancers. And what they showed was people who consumed certain high-fat dairy were at risk for many different types of cancers. Now, another correlational study where they just looked at people's diets, and they said, okay, the people who in their diet had tons of dairy then would have more cancer. It doesn't mean anything because it doesn't say exactly what they were doing, and we can't look at their diets exactly, but what we know is on looking from above, in general, the people who consumed more dairy ended up having more cancer in the study. This is 26 years ago. It's a long time. And I haven't seen any follow-ups
I was going to say, you're not going to get your hands on that because the dairy industry runs government. So good luck getting your hands on those studies now. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
They have their hands in everything. They're all over the place. They have way too much money.
On the health food, on Canada Food Guide, on most food guides.
Don't get me going.
Yeah. That's Healthy Rebel Radio for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. If you'd like to get episodes to your inbox once a week, subscribe to our newsletter at damihealth.com. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
See you.
Healthy Rebel Radio is presented by the online health and wellness center, damihealth.com. Since 2009, Amy Lane has successfully coached thousands of women through her signature program, the Bikini Body Program. Join today to work exclusively with Amy to unveil your greatest yet to be from the inside out. Go to damihealth.com for more information.
Thank you for listening to Healthy Rebel Radio. Please connect with us on our community pages on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram, all at the handle @DamiHealth. For weekly recipes, articles, and all our episodes straight to your inbox, join our newsletter at damihealth.com. You can find all the links discussed in today's episode in the show notes. Thank you for joining us, and see you tomorrow.